Here we go. We're going to do some turning down here in Stu's dungeon today. Got a piece of wood here. This is called Mukunoki. Don't know what it's called in English, but that's what it's called in Japanese. It's a nice little wood I got from the shrine down the Shinto shrine down the road. When they took a tree down, I was fortunate enough to get some of the wood. This is green. I got it about, I don't know, a month ago, and I sealed it up on all sides here to keep it as green as possible. I'm going to be roughing out a natural edge bowl here, which means that this is going to be the top, so this will have the opening, and this will be the bottom where the tenon will go, where I'll grab it with a chuck eventually. I'm using my wood screw, or my wormwood screw, I don't know what you call it, on my lathe here. I've got it mounted in the chuck. I got a hole drilled there. That hole is 7.4 millimeters. It goes pretty much the right size for that screw on this Nova chuck. So how I do this might look a little bit dangerous, but when you think about it, it's not, because when you're putting this on, when the wood touches the chuck, of course the wood's going to spin. And if you're still hanging on to it at that point, it's going to hurt. So I just put it on, 3/4 of the way on, and then I stop the lathe and I finish the job by hand. The lathe is at a low speed. I only set it at about 200 RPM, and I find doing this by hand totally, it's much more difficult to get it on straight. You end up kind of wobbling, and the threads aren't cut as cleanly. Whereas if you do this under power, the first bit of the screw, anyways, I find that I get a better bite on the piece of wood, and it holds it better, and everything just works out better. Okay, here we go. So just take that, push it up there like that, hold it on until it gets close, and then let go. Now I let go, it didn't stop. So now I have to take it and turn it by hand, the last bit, until the wood is actually touching the jaws of the chuck. Now, this is a very solid way to mount a piece of wood, especially, this isn't such a large piece at all. But even so, I still bring up the tailstock. And when I bring the tailstock up, I bring it up lightly, let it touch, then I lock it down, and then I crank it in. That way it seems to just get a better self-centering motion kind of deal, whereas, if you just ram it up against there by itself, sometimes it can be a little bit off. So there, that's ready to go. I'll get my tool rest up here and make sure this is set at the right height. I'm going to start out with a 1/2-inch bowl gouge, and just a little bit lower than that. I want to mention that I'm of course wearing safety glasses. After the lights turn on in the workshop, the first thing that I put on is my safety glasses, even before I put on my shop apron, because one time when I was putting on my shop apron, I flipped the strap from the apron and hit myself right in the eye. So I put on the lights, the safety glasses, then the apron, and then usually the music. But anyways, that's ready to go now. The other thing I always wear when roughing out is I always wear some kind of a face shield. Right now, what I'm using is this face shield that's actually made for a chainsaw, and I like it because when it's a bit cool out, when you're breathing on it, doesn't fog up. I don't know if it's got as much protection as one of the plastic shields. I guess it doesn't, but when the shield fogs up and you can't see, that's not a safe situation either. So this is what I use right now. Okay, so now we're ready to rock and roll here. I'm going to grab my 1/2-inch bowl gouge. It's ground with a wing grind on it, or swept back grind on it. It's nice and sharp. And I'll set the lathe fairly high speed to start with. Some people are a bit surprised that I rough out this quickly, but I do. This isn't a big piece of wood either. That's running pretty good. That's about 1,000 RPM. So now I'm going to, first off, I'm going to make sure everything's tight. I did that once, did it twice. Now I'm going to start taking these corners off. Now taking that corner off, I'm going to move my tool rest, because these don't want to be hanging off there. It doesn't take long to move your tool rest, and then you can get right back at it a little bit more. Move the tool rest again. You can see how big of a gap it opened up there. Now I got to start thinking about the shape here. I'm almost down on I'm cut there to the edge. Obviously here I'm not, so I got to cut some more here, and then I got to put a tenon on it. kind of decide on some kind of a shape, I guess, as well. See how that's looking. Okay, so I'm cut all the way down, all the way around the outside edge there. Now I got to work on the tenon. Now I have a tool here, caliper that is set up as a no-go. So basically I never want to go smaller than that on tenon, so I'm still fine for the tenon size. It's not going to be too small. I'm going to grab my parting tool that I use for making tenons. This is different from my regular parting tool. This is a cheapo one that I got somewhere along the line when I first started turning. It's sharpened with just, well, you can see that there, but it's not sharpened straight across. It's sharpened at a slight angle like that, which is the angle that I want for my dovetail on my tenon. I'm going to just jam that in there gently. First I'm going to clean this edge up. If your tenon is nice and clean and straight, then when you reverse the blank around to hollow out the inside, you know, it'll be running true and everything will be just much more copacetic. Okay, I'm just going to come back here and I'm going to just very slightly adjust this shape here, get a little bit rounder form to it. I know I'm cutting the wrong way, but it's a green bowl. I'm not doing commission cut, so it doesn't really matter. Right now I'm just trying to get this done as quickly as possible because I got about another, oh, I don't know, 100 or so of these things to do. I got a whole bunch of wood, so and I want to use it all. And it's starting to crack a bit, so. Okay, so that's basically done right there. I'm just going to pop this off, and just because I can, I'm going to just quickly move my tailstock right down to the end of the lathe and get it out of the way, and then I'm going to just quickly shrew this end up here just a little bit. Not vitally important, but I do want to make sure that there is a hole right in the center there. This one happened to be left from the tailstock. That'll be important for later when I want to return it to the lathe to finish turning it.